Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to continue our examination of American Flagg, Howard Chaykin's magnum opus. Unfortunately, these two issues, number 13 and 14, this is going to be rough. I guess after 12 issues of writing, penciling, and inking a comic, Howard Chaykin needed a vacation, I imagine, or at least some bedtime. So these are two fill-in issues, and they're not very good, I gotta say. Howard Chaykin writes them, though. I would have normally, when there's fill-in issues in comics, I sell them because I curate my collection like a gardener weeding his garden. But these are written by Chaykin, and they do continue the story of of American Flagg. And I love American Flagg so much. These are almost like fan fiction, even though Howard Chaykin wrote them. But just the art is so bad, and especially the first one. It's ridiculous. But let's look. You can see for yourselves. At first, you wouldn't know, because Howard Chaykin did both covers. So it looks like a normal issue of American Flagg. So we start off here. We're back at the Chicago Plex Mall. After the events of last story arc, Raoul the Cat's a celebrity now, and it's kind of going to his head. He's kind of becoming a douchebag. And he's getting all these endorsements. And we start off the story with C.K. Blitz and Peg Krieger, who all this time we thought was Greta, the madam of the local whorehouse. But as we saw last time, she got her memory back, and this issue basically explains what happened to her, and we'll find that out very soon. But look at this. Look how big her head is on the body here. She looks like she's 8 years old, but really tall. This is some really bad art. But surprisingly, it's from a guy who can really draw. This is, Howard Chaykin wrote it, but this is penciled by James Sherman. James Sherman did some amazing shit in the 70s for Legion of Superheroes. And he did some 80s epic comic. What was it called? Steel Grip Starkey and an all-purpose power tool. Was that James Sherman? I could be mixing it up. That could be Alan Weiss. But whatever. Suffice to say, I've never seen James Sherman draw this crappy. And it could be Rick Burchett's fault. Because Rick Burchett, he was a fan artist in the 70s. I used to see him in all these fanzines when I was a kid. But then he became a pro. But always had this very open, light, cartoony style. So I think he's inking James Sherman that way. So we find out Raoul is talking to Ambassador Deutschmarks from Brazil. He's pretty much the Plex's main guy on Earth. He's pretty much the big enchilada in Plex politics on Earth. Raoul is basically giving him the bad news that they're not going to release his daughter. As we saw last story arc, once again, his daughter, Desiree Deutschmarks, joined up with the Nazis who were trying to gas Chicago, kill millions of people. So she's lucky that she's not executed, but because she's got pull, because her dad is such a bigwig. So he's all angry. And they're like, sorry, she's in protective custody for a while at least. Then we see Ruben and Bill Windsor-Jones and Luther Ironheart working out. I don't know why Luther is working out. He's a robot. He can't build muscle mass. I don't know. Oh, man. This is hard to look at. I'm sorry. Yeah, excuse me. So, the Deutschmarks calls up Ruben. Basically the same thing. And he's like, are you fucking crazy? No, we're not releasing her. And Ruben basically says, I want a one-on-one with a plexocrat. No minor functionaries. I want top brass. Because he's got pull now. He just saved Chicago. He's a hero too, you know. Not as much as Raul, maybe. So Medea has a call, a ranger call. But on the way out, she sees Mandy. And she kind of is pleading with Mandy, like, oh, come on, give our mom a chance. Because if you remember, they're half-sisters. And their mom was Peg Krieger. Well, still is Peg Krieger now. All this time they thought she was dead. Mandy's not having it. Mandy's just like, yeah, once a whore, always a whore. She really does not like her mom. So Medea takes off. These guys are hijacking a meat truck. Medea shows up, starts dropping bombs on them. And then all of a sudden, Cyril shows up. And the guys who used to be in the Genetic Warlords, they're the Video Rangers now. They're basically vigilantes. So I guess they got a taste of being on the other side of the law from hanging out with Ruben in the last story arc. So they're keeping it up. They're still the Video Rangers. And they're there to help Medea out. I know I pronounce her name different every time I talk about her. Medea. I don't know. So they've got them all rounded up. And Cyril is all like, thinking he's going to be thanked. And she's like, thanks, but no thanks. Last thing I want is help from some trigger-happy vigilantes. So back at the mall, Peggy Krieger is talking to Crystal Gail Markova, the pilot for, what is it called? Four Worlds? The big Brazilian outfit. Meanwhile, Ruben gets a call from Jules and Luther and some other Plexus Rangers, kind of Video Rangers themselves. And there's a mass suicide at the remaining members of the ASLC, the guys who were going to gas Chicago. So that kind of wraps that up in a neat little bow. Though I think they do mention that the leader, Decker, he is not there. So maybe we'll be seeing Decker again. This elusive Decker who we've never seen. So Peg Krieger goes to visit Ruben Flagg. Don't quite understand why she has to debrief to Flagg about what's going on. She doesn't really owe him anything, but she feels like she has an obligation to tell him what happened, her story. So here's the little young Peggy Krieger. Her aunt raised her because she was orphaned and she was well-connected politically. So she gets a job as aircraft traffic controller at the Plex when the Chicago Plex Mall was just being started. And around that same time, Hilton Krieger and C.K. Blitz were young Go Gang members. They started the Genetic Warlords. And, of course, she's a pretty tight ass, goody two-shoes, but she falls for the bad boy. And she totally falls for Hilton, I should say. So they got married. They had a baby, Mandy. And turns out she's a genius, Peg Krieger. Just amazing with electronics. Talk about them starting the QUSA, the pirate video station. And Mandy grows up, and she's an amazing little girl. So Hilton has to go to Brazil, though, for a few years for some police action. He's drafted. Or he's just in the Rangers, so he has to go. So she's lonely, and she's depressed. So she turns to C.K. Blitz, and they become lovers. And that's how Medea is born. And, Mandy's already a little toddler at this point, and she does not like the situation. She's growing distant. She's like, who the fuck is this guy? That's not my dad. So when Hilton comes home, he sees what the hell's going on. He sees Peg with, a half black, half white baby. And he just tells her to go. He's like, get out. So she leaves and travels all over, tries to find a new home, but ends up in New Orleans. And that's where she met Emmett Gollum, if you remember him from the Southern Comfort storyline. I believe it's the Southern Comfort one. And she becomes a video engineer there. She seems pretty happy. One day she picks up this, a woman named Gretchen Holmstrom, a prostitute. And they hit a landmine that was supposed to, all the landmines were supposed to be, decommissioned. But this one blows them up. So all they find is Peg Krieger's corpse. I'm sorry. Peg Krieger's the only one left alive. And she's wrapped around Gretchen's suitcase. So they assume that she's Gretchen Holmstrom, Peg Krieger. Because, Gretchen Holmstrom's burned beyond recognition. Peg Krieger's still alive, holding her suitcase. So they're like, oh, this is her. So they facially reconstruct her to look like the ID card of Gretchen. And they even give her basically a psychology, what is it called? With the help of Gretchen's Plex index, they pieced my life together. So they basically gave her psychological counseling to introduce her to herself. Say, oh, you're Gretchen Holmstrom. This is who you are. So she thinks she's Gretchen Holmstrom and looks like Gretchen Holmstrom. And becomes just like Gretchen Holmstrom, becomes a madam at the Love Canal franchise. So then Raoul calls up and he says, yep, the Plex is going to meet your demands. They're sending some bigwig named Sherman Peabody. And he says, boy, boy, as if it's something important. Okay. Yeah, I got to keep that issue. It's got some important stuff, developments. So number 14. Another Howard Chaykin cover. Looks decent. But I gotta say, even these two covers aren't as good as the other ones. It's almost like Howard Chaykin was like, I'm out of here for a couple months. I'll dash off a cover. We see Raoul at a talk show with a bunch of the heroes of the fighting the ASLC in the last story arc, and he's really becoming a conceited jerk. Bill is his manager now. He gets him all these sponsorships. He's also Jules' manager, Jules' Death Wish. And of course, Raoul's getting all the attention, all the love. Jules is kind of pissed off that he can't get bigger gigs. So we see Medea talking to Peg, her mom. It's hard not to call her Gretchen. In fact, a lot of characters keep saying Peg, because it's just weird, They've known her as this for years, this person. It is weird, though, if she's got her mind back, her memories and everything. You'd think she'd stop dressing like a madam. I imagine. Then again, maybe she finds out that she kind of likes it. So then we cut away to C.K. Blitz. He's adjudicating. Is that the word? He's basically giving a sentence to Titania Weiss, who helped, the ASLC, almost got Chicago. She's a Jewish Nazi. But they actually don't execute her because of her amazing knowledge of prosthetics. He sentences her to Mars, where she's going to like help or at least teach other doctors how to do what she can do. She's just too valuable to just kill. She really has advanced the prosthetics science and amazingly. So people in the Chicago people go crazy. They're like, are you fucking serious? She almost killed everyone in Chicago. And here we go, splash page, disorder in the court. And of course, Reuben and Luther are going to take care of this shit. They've even got to tank these people. They're going to attack the tank. So, once again, Howard Chaykin's writing, and this time they got Pat Broderick and penciling and Rick Burchett inking. Leslie Zoller's not coloring. They got Alex Wald. Interesting, it says inspiration, internal revenue in the credits. So I wonder if he was saying that, yeah, even though I wanted to take a break, I had to get these crappier guys to do my comic because I need the money. So Reuben and Luther put the kibosh on this whatever, basically a lynching. They were going to storm the place and kill Titania themselves. So Crystal Gale comes up to Reuben. And we find out that now Four World Industries, after Esther de la Cristo's death a few issues ago, now her brother Antonio's in charge. And Crystal's a pilot again. And basically, Deutschmarks, the ambassador, he sends some fancy new helicopter. Basically, it's a bribe. He really wants Reuben to release his daughter. And here we see his daughter. She's kind of bestial. And she's complaining to Luther and Medea. Just all like, I'll have your jobs. Basically being a big Karen, you know, like, how dare you speak to me that way? And Luther is kind of, you know, he's always that dopey nice guy. He's actually just like, you're fucking lucky you're not dead. You would have gone down in history as an accessory to the murder of Chicago. So Reuben shows up and pretty much repeats what they're saying. They're like, you're not going anywhere. And I'm going to staple your lip shut if you don't shut up. So Reuben and Mandy are making love. Or I guess just having sex. I don't know if they're in love. They're not in love, I don't think. And we see a news report about the Plex is opening up in Canada. All this time, ever since the collapse, Canada's pretty much been off the grid. They've pretty much been ungoverned. And now the Plex is planting its flag. We see Sherman Peabody. Because, you know, he's got Plex business other than talking to Reuben. And then all of a sudden we hear these horse hoof beats. There's a band of horsemen. And these masked cowboy types shoot up the place and basically protest the Plex. They say, fuck, basically they're saying, fuck the Plex. Canada doesn't need it. We don't want their tyranny. And then they ride off. And the leader's name, he wears this mask. He's called the Black Beaver. Kind of silly. This art, I guess, is marginally better than the last issues. It's weird because I used to love Pat Broderick so much as a kid. I collected everything he drew. Even if he just did a cover of a comic, I'd buy it. But yeah, he definitely got worse in the 80s. In the late 70s, he was pretty damn good. Yeah, look at Reuben's face there. I don't know. Just looks totally different. So Sherman Peabody arrives with Antonio de la Cristo. Antonio de la Cristo takes one look at Desiree Deutschmarks, and he's got some ideas in his head. And he's like, oh, why don't you show me around? And they just take off. Ruben takes him on a tour of Chicago. And he gets a call. Some Plexus Rangers are under fire from some anarchists. These are some of the Gotha Democrats who were part of the plan to gas Chicago. They're prisoners of war. And these anarchists want them. They want to lynch them. They want some vigilante justice. So Ruben shoves a missile up one of the car's asses. And then Sherman Peabody, this kind of middle-aged, goofy-looking old guy, he jumps out. And he's all like, I was handling tougher punks than these when you were barely a glint in your father's eyes. And he's pretty kick-ass. So him and Ruben shut these guys down together. And they basically have a tete-a-tete while they're flying. And Ruben basically lays his cards on the table. He says he's demanding that his pirate video station, QUSA, that the Plex recognize it. And he says, if you don't, I'm going to release all the information about your secret plan to have Brazil by Illinois and parts of Indiana. And Sherman Peabody's like, how the hell did you know about that? So he basically blackmails him. Because Ruben's argument is that the Plex is definitely not serving Chicago's interest at all. Somebody needs to. So I have every right, this QUSA, in a way, is in the public interest, even though they show porn and pre-collapse videos. So Sherman Peabody gets on TV and basically says, yep, QUSA is now a going concern. And it'll have a thumbs up from the Plex. So he tells Mandy about the whole conversation. And she's like, but every scrap of evidence went off the bridge into the Chicago River. So Ruben just bluffed. He lied. So Ruben and Mandy are together. Ruben says, you're still free to join me if you want. 4 o'clock at the Love Canal. And she's like, fuck off. I'm not going to that shit. And we find out it's a wedding. It's a double wedding. Because, since Peg got her memory back, she's been rekindling her love with CK. And already, Antonio and Desiree are already getting married. They I think, just met a few days before. So it's a double wedding. And Raul sends them off with a nice tune at the piano. Babalu's getting married, what you say. I don't know that song, but I like the lyrics. So that's it for these 2 fill-in issues. Next time we'll get back to some good Chaykin goodness. And hopefully this will just be a bad memory. But, it's got a lot of information. If you really like American Flagg as much as I do, I want to know everything that happened. I mean, I wish there was 50 more issues of American Flagg. Of course, there were a lot more that I don't have because a different writer wrote them. And if Howard Chaykin's not doing American Flagg, it's not American Flagg. It's like somebody else doing Howard the Duck, as I said earlier. So, but still, he's writing these, and I'm going to keep them in the collection. I was almost considering that maybe I don't need these, but I got to have the whole story of Ruben Flagg. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you here next time at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.